Hi, I'm Dr. Faisel Syed. Welcome to another episode of Faisel and Friends. We're here because we believe everyone deserves access to quality primary care, and ChenMed needs physicians to take care of them. Tonight's topic is forging a happier future. My co-host and moderator of the chat is Dr. Dan McCarter. Welcome, Dr. Dan.
Hey, Faisal, it's great to be with you.
It's good to be back with you again. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. It's always good to find out about how to be happier.
Yes, and I'm excited about having our friend joining us tonight. Let's welcome Dr. Dike Drummond. Dr. Dike Drummond, welcome.
Hey, great to be here, Faisal. I feel like I should walk in a door and change my jacket and my shoes and sing a little song.
Well, okay, truth be told, shoes are optional.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine?
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Sure.
I'm a big fan of yours. I'm so glad that we got connected over the last few months. But I'd like to give a little bit of an introduction. If you can kind of let us know about the path that you've taken with the Happy MD and how that all kind of came about.
You want the whole story?
I'd love to know. I'd love to know a little bit about like how you got to where you are now.
Well, I am from a family of strong women. And if you look back in time in the 1930s, my maternal grandmother was at the University of Illinois, wanted to be a doctor, came home a teacher. An honorable trade for a woman at the time. She would have been one of the very first female physicians in the state of Illinois had she been able to go through with the plan. And then in the 50s, my mother, her daughter, went to college at the University of Illinois, wanted to be a doctor, came home a teacher. I was the oldest grandchild, the first male and grandchild. And so in the background, my mother and my grandmother really wanted me to become a doctor. And we're not from a family though where you say that out loud. So I didn't get told that at the dinner table when I was a boy or anything like that. But I got to my senior year in college. I had a honors biology degree at Indiana University. And I said, what do I do now? Because I certainly don't want to go into a master's program and be a lab rat. I said, oh my gosh, this is the perfect pre-med degree. I will go and apply to some medical schools. And if I get into a good one, what the heck, maybe I'll go. And I got into Mayo, and they made it sure that I knew that there were 900 applicants for the 5 out-of-state positions. Interesting backstory. I played rugby as a college student, and I grew up in England, at least as a high school student. So I had like 7 or 8 years of rugby under my belt when I interviewed at Mayo. And they gave me a guy who was an old rugby player. We talked for half an hour, my single faculty interview at Mayo, half an hour about rugby. Didn't mention my career aspirations or any of that kind of stuff. I got the letter in the mail and said, I'd be crazy not to go. So I graduated from Mayo. Mayo is a little tiny medical school on that great big Mayo resident campus. And 2 of the 4 years I was at Mayo, we sent cold records in January, which is not what you want to do in Minnesota. So I immediately went out to California, UC Davis system, Redding, California, way up in north in the Central Valley. Did a year as a full service ER doc, 10 24-hour shifts a month in a little rural emergency room. Then 10 years of full service primary practice, family practice in Mount Vernon, Washington. If here is Seattle and here is Vancouver, BC, I-5 connects them. Mount Vernon is about halfway along. Delivered 500 babies, admitted all my own patients. I was always a member of the executive committee at our 40-doctor multi-specialty group, the whole big thing. And then in 1999, when I was 40, my mother and grandmother had died. And I was a family doc, and one of the thresholds for burnout for family docs is about 10 years in. And the reason is, at a higher percentage than specialists, family docs like novelty. So when we say, that was great, I've never seen anything like that before, we're excited about that. Whereas if I'm a specialist, it would scare the daylights out of me, because what I'm trying to do is to be a master of my little center of the universe. Well, about 10 years in, about 30,000 patient visits in, is when you start to not see that so much. So my mother was gone. My grandmother was gone. I wasn't getting the novelty out of my practice. And what happened to me was I hit a brick wall. Over the course of about 3 weeks in my practice, it felt like somebody was putting me in what they call in the UFC a rear naked choke, which is when they jump on your back, put their elbow around your neck, and choke you out until you tap out. Unfortunately, as a doctor, you don't get to tap out. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if you knew you were being choked out and you could tap and they'd quit, right? So I went on a sabbatical. I took 30 days off, shaved my head, did a bunch of yoga, came back and prayed that it was gone, but it came back right away. So I actually walked into the CEO's office and signed my resignation and walked away from my medical career, which I don't recommend as a transition strategy because it just burns too many bridges. I put money on the table as a walk-in clinic doc for a while. I got certified as an executive coach. So I'm an International Coach Federation certified executive coach. I've been coaching doctors and entrepreneurs for about 20 years now. And in 2010, my marriage went away. I got burnt to the ground for the second time. And I decided to launch a little website to see if I could build a coaching business to pull my shoelaces back together again. And I started a company called thehappymd.com and accumulated a coaching practice, coaching burnout doctors. And I like to write. So when I saw patterns in my clients and what was burning them out and getting them better, I wrote blog posts. That turned into a book. Dr. Dan's got the book, I believe. And, and then during the time, the book's called Stop Physician Burnout, What to Do When Working Harder Isn't Working. And then at the time, this was 2012, 2014, 2016, what was happening was organizations were getting bigger and bigger and bigger and employing more and more and more doctors. And the organizations that are your employers don't necessarily know about the care and feeding of a healthy physician because burnout rates are at 50% and all that kind of stuff. So they started to ask me, hey, can you come and train our people how to prevent burnout? And so at this point in time, I've trained 40,000 doctors for 175 organizations on 4 continents on how to recognize and prevent burnout. And then COVID came along and took away all of our lovely live training social events. I saw your pictures of people live. You were with live people in the intro videos, right?
Yeah.
And now here we are, right?
I've really struggled. It was Dr. Dan, Drew, and Jess who produced this, and a few other people really pushed for getting onto social media last year and connecting with people in this manner. It's had pros and cons. You know, you got to get used to looking into this dark circle when we connect with people, as opposed to meeting everyone and feeding the energy, especially when you're dealing with residents. Most of our external outreaches are towards doctors in training with medical family medicine residency programs as well as internal medicine. So I have a question for you. Was your grandmother, was she born in the United States? And so was it your great grandparents were the ones who migrated over, and where'd they come from?
Actually, it's more generations back because my grandmother was one of the DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution. So she's like six generations in this country.
Wow.
But her father had been a primary care doctor back in the Depression, and she would tell stories about people who couldn't pay, tie a chicken to the doorknob, that kind of stuff. And so when I decided that I wanted to be a doctor, there was only one image I had in my mind of what a doctor was. And my doctor growing up was a guy named Dr. Schmidt. And Dr. Schmidt had his surgery in the main floor of a house downtown. I think he might have even lived upstairs. I don't remember. But you know the Norman Rockwell picture where the kid's going to get a shot in the butt and he's looking at the doctor's credentials? It was just like that. Dr. Schmidt had a compounding pharmacy down the street, and he had a thing that he'd give you in a little jar that he called Dr. Schmidt's Magic Salve. And it used to cure almost anything you put it on. It would take ugly rashes and cuts and stuff, and just almost overnight, it would put them right. And just to describe, I didn't know what it was at the time because sushi wasn't popular in America. It looks just like the bright green wasabi, and it was the same texture and everything. I wish I had the recipe. It probably would be a really important product, or it had arsenic in it or something.
Yeah, that's